Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session, Shape New World Symposium. This symposium is as part of the Theme Week program. Global Shapers belongs to World Economic Forum. We really prepared for this program to think about the future of 2050 in each aspect. We have 24 sessions overall, and today 3 sessions related to co-creating cultures for the future week. So this is the second session, and the title is The Power of Design to Create New Traditions, Shaping the Future of Lifestyles. It's part of Agenda 2025 co-creation program, so I would really appreciate to the Expo 2025 team and the sponsors, especially MUIC, Kansai Innovation Center. I really appreciate all of your help. And now I would like to pass touch to the presenters, especially moderator. So we have 5 panelists. So I would like to introduce them, then I would like to pass to Ayano-san. So we have 5 presenters. Ayano Sasaki from Catalyst Kyushu. So, okay. Ayano Sasaki and Jenny Rai from Node. She's a designer. Aya Murakami, she's an entrepreneur related on the upcycling of kimono. And Gabriel, he's a designer and creative producer. And Tihan, he's a human interface designer. All of them will talk about the lifestyles and what would be the future, what we can do for the future. It's super enjoyable session, I believe. I'm looking forward to join this session too. So it's preserved in online and at real. So thank you so much. And I would like to invite Ayano-san and pass to you. So thank you so much. 拍手でお願いします。
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our session today. The themes of today's discussions, panel discussion, is the power of design to create a new tradition, shaping the future of lifestyle. So the power of design, we can also say that the power of shaping the new worlds. Because in our daily lives, we are surrounded by a lot of products, and those products or services are designed by someone. And those designers are on the stage today. Well, of course, we make the choice for each product or service we're going to use for our daily lives, but the options are made by them. So in this sessions and in getting to know more about the designer from various products or industries, it helps us to understand what's coming next and then also the future worlds. So let's enjoy the next 2 hours. And so, are we ready? Then let's get started. So, Gabriel, Tihan, IR, Jenny, please come to the stage. So thank you so much for joining today. So we are happy to hear about your presentations. But before that, first I'd like to briefly introduce myself as well. So let's get started. So the slides changed. Okay. So hello, I'm Ayano Sasaki. I'm currently the representative director of Catalyst Kyushu, and then also the curator of the Global Shapers Community, Fukuoka. So briefly about myself, I was born in Nagasaki and also grew up in Miyazaki, Nagasaki, and then Fukuoka. This is the Kyushu region, which might be familiar to many of you in Japan, the left side. Due to my father's job, I often spend time in Kanto region, including Tokyo, and during my childhood, so which gave me the opportunity to reflect on what Kyushu means to me. Later, I studied abroad in Hong Kong and then also Beijing, and then participated in various international programs during my undergrads. So this experience gave me a numerous opportunity to think about Japan's influence in other countries in Asian regions, and then at the same time, its cultural relationship with Asian and in the rest of the world. So I once worked at the Boston Consulting Group as a consultant, but with a strong desire to make a contribution to Kyushu, my homeland. So I just founded the organization, Catalyst Kyushu. In parallel, for the past 5 years, I've been working on the revitalizing and then also managing the global shapers communities. So this community is for understudy. And also this is organized by the World Economic Forum. Maybe you know the Davos conference. So to make the local cities better with the young powers, I make a community to, and also platform for young generation to work on their local issues. So that's me. So yeah, as someone with a local perspective, I believe there are things and cultures in Kyushu that I want to pass on the next generation. However, I also feel uncertainty about whether we should simply let the world rapid changes, especially the shift in values, take their course. So today, I hope to find my own answers to this conversation as well. And also, I want to enjoy that conversation with you all today. So first of all, we're going to have a presentation from Gabriel. And so stage is yours.
Perfect, thank you. So firstly, I'd like to thank you for having me in Japan, the expo, and also this panel discussion here. I'm really, truly honored. So my name's Gabriel. Next slide. So I'm a multidisciplinary designer and creative producer based in London. And I'm just going to talk to you about a few projects that I've done previously. So I've been really fortunate enough to work at quite a few leading studios in London, from Aphrodite Carassa, who's a interior design firm that specializes in hospitality. She's a brainchild behind some of the behind London's most iconic eateries, from Dishoom to Itsu to Gordon Ramsay's Lucky Cat. Next slide. Loop PH, which is an experiential studio, and they create these really ephemeral spaces, really, really beautiful work. Next slide. Yuri Suzuki, who's a Japanese sound artist, designer, and electronic musician. I worked with him for quite a few years as lead designer and worked across sound installations and products. Next slide. Oh, one before. And, Pentagram, yeah, that's the one. And so I joined Yuri at Pentagram Design when he was made a partner. Pentagram Design is one of the world's largest independently owned design studios, with studios in New York, London, Austin, and Berlin. And here I joined him as the lead designer, working across the same kind of things: installations, products, sounds, and digital experiences. After that, I joined Google ATAP. ATAP it stands for Advanced Technologies and Projects Group. They're a secretive R&D lab that looked at tech in the future, very similar to Google X. And here I was working on a specific team that looked at implementing Google tech into artworks by artists and designers. My role changed slightly here, where I was more of a creative program manager and creative producer. And currently, I'm consulting on a freelance basis for Google Arts and Culture as a creative producer. And here at Google Arts and Culture, they look to promote and preserve culture to make it accessible for everyone online. I work at the lab at Google Arts and Culture, and we specifically look at emerging technology and culture. And so I've been really lucky enough in my time to work with so many brands. And here's a few of them. Next slide. And whether that's across installation design, across product design, speculative, digital, and product design, I've been through a wide range of projects. And so we get to the theme of the discussion, tradition, and I was really thinking about what tradition means to me. So for me, tradition is a thread that connects people people who came before us. It could be a skill, it could be a ritual, it could be an activity. But it's that idea of a shared history. And so I've picked 2 projects that I've worked on that I think kind of encompass this idea of tradition. And I must say, I don't work on these projects alone. They're like a group effort. And yeah, I'll show you some of them. So the first one is Sonic Bloom. This is a large-scale public art installation that was installed in London. Next slide. It was done during my time at Pentagram with Yuri Suzuki in 2021, just as things were opening up in the pandemic. So it's a playful large-scale sculpture with horns that undulate and meander, and we invite visitors to speak into one horn and so they can listen to the other horn. And it uses a very primitive but effective way of transferring sounds, which is like an old school form of communication, like they were used in submarines. And this is a tradition of oral storytelling, which predates like the digital communication era. So hopefully this kind of fosters this a more intimate form of communication. Next slide. And then a project that I did with Cochet and Google ATAP. Cochet is a Paris fashion brand. Next slide. And this was presented at Paris Fashion Week in 2023. We granted Cochet access to technology that was available at Google ATAP, and we ideated how we can implement this within Cochet's creative practice. And we ultimately tried to implement this within the clothes and also the scenography. Christelle Cochet, who's the creative director of Cochet, brings her background from Chanel Maison Limer in garments, and there was a lot of hours and hours of producing these garments. So it's this idea of traditional skills that were passed down. But ultimately, we looked to implement it within the clothes to try and create these new forms of interaction. So the idea was that the model interacts with the clothes, and then the clothes interacts with the scenes and the scenography and the audience. And so this is a super interesting project for me because I think it's a good example of how tradition can form a foundation for pioneering explorations in fashion. So that's me. Hopefully you'll be able to see more later. There's some contact details down below if you want to chat.
Thank you so much. That presentation makes us so excited. And also, I thought designer is my understanding, design something. But what you're doing is kind of like connecting to a lot of things, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's this idea of like co-creation, and definitely like it's a big team. It's fun. It's a fun job.
Right, that's very true. Thank you so much. So next, we're gonna hear from Tihan, your project. So let's get started.
Hello. I also like to, first of all, thanks the Expo 2025 to invite me here and, have a panel discussion with all the talented designers here. So I'm Tihan. I'm a multidisciplinary designer, and I'm really passionate about typography and visual aesthetic. I'm currently based in Singapore, but I'm originally from Myanmar. Next slide, please. So, as someone who raised and born in Myanmar, design scene in Myanmar is not very mature. So basically, when I was back in 2015, starting out becoming as a designer, I started out in, advertising industry. Back then, it was, I was working at Ogilvy, Myanmar. So basically, if you want to become a designer in Myanmar, you start in advertising because, for us, it's like at the time, we don't really have like a design education or, design school or anything. So we basically have to go through the self-taught process of like, learning Photoshop, learning illustrators and stuff. That's how, my whole design journey started. Next slide, please. Can you click through? Yeah. So, I joined Ogilvy around 2015 as an art director in Myanmar to work on billboard, advertisings, and print ad, etc. Even at the time, I was always been fascinated by, product design, digital apps, website, etc. So, by the time I was working in Ogilvy as an art director, I was always want to move to product design and work on, different websites, apps, digital experiences back then. And then after that, I got a job in Revo, another digital agency, work on, different like a branding project, social media campaigns, etc. And then I finally, after working for about 4 years as an art director in Myanmar, I have thought about moving to overseas, to try to branch out of my professional career. But at the same time, I always wanted to become a product designer. So basically what I did was that I basically searched like a design studio in Singapore, like a branded studio that I really love about their work and stuff. I basically co-emailed them, 3 of them. So basically one of them came back to me and said they would like to have an interview with me for, for a digital designer position. And I'm like, oh, that was really great. Then we started the interview process. Then a little bit of complication happened because in Singapore, for Myanmar, a Burmese designer to work in Singapore, you need a sort of like a working pass. So at the time, that company didn't have enough quota for them to sponsor me to Singapore. So then one lucky thing happened. They basically sent my portfolio to another agency in Singapore. If you tap, please. So this is like Iris Singapore. I got a chance to have an interview over there because of the previous design company that referred me to Iris Singapore. And then I worked in Iris for about 8 months as a digital designer because I always wanted to move to a product design team. Yeah, next one, please. So basically, when I was working in Iris, I have a chance to move to a product designer to work in Grab. So basically, if you are in Southeast Asia, you will be getting a ride to different places, and then Grab would be the sort of like a go-to these days app for ride-hailing, food delivery, etc. So I kind of like have a chance to apply for the positions of product designer. And then I work on different apps, different digital services like food delivery, financial products, etc. in Grab for about 5 years. And then I finally, thought of myself like I would be, so when I was working at Grab, I was serving around people in Southeast Asia with the, digital services that Grab offer. Then I was like, okay, after 5 years of my experience, I would like to expand my career scope or, expand my work to different other country. So then I decided to apply for TikTok. So now I moved to, I'm currently working in TikTok/ByteDance as a lead product designer. So if you go to TikTok shop and then you try to buy something and then you put it into the shopping cart, and from the checkout screen, that's where we're responsible from checkout screen to all the way to like you made the latest transactions. So that's my current work. Next slide, please. So basically, we design digital experiences, but not just that. Sometimes we redesign. So this is the sort of work that we did for like a redesigning Grab app when I was there. Next slide as well. So basically, we have like a different of experiences, right? And the experiences different from country to country because in Grab we serve like 8 different Southeast Asian countries. One funny thing is that, can you go to the next slide, please? So if you look at the last 2 screens, this the product called Priority Delivery. So what it does is that if you order food and then you turn on Priority Delivery, you will get it faster, right? But you have to pay a little bit of price in order to expedite your delivery process. Something that we found out when I was working at Grab about the product is that when we launched it in Singapore, the feedback was really great. Okay, the customer would like to pay a little bit more to get your food a little bit faster. But one interesting thing happened. In Malaysia, we got a lot of like a backlash. So the users were like, why are you charging us to deliver your food faster, right? Like, different experiences. So at the time, what we did was like, okay, we basically called the different stakeholders. We met, we tried to brainstorm like, what should we like? How should we improve the product, right? So the way we work in digital product space is that it's always like iterative, right? From one digital state to, like, okay, let's improve it, let's launch it, and then try to adapt to different countries and different product, different users. So what we do is like, we basically brainstorm it within the team. Hey, this, because of the users giving this feedback, so that means, is we have to do something, or we basically have to like market it in a different way that it would be suitable for the culture in Malaysia. So that's what happens, when you work in different country for the different users. You basically have to localize your products and services to offer, better cultural products that fits their needs as well. Next slide, please. Can you play the video? Yeah. So this is also another product that I was working on. Is in Singapore, Grab previously launched this Web3 wallet. So, the goal of this product is to basically introduce the money with purpose. So the government introduced this digital vouchers, and then Grab as a wallet provider. So basically, the government gave vouchers as a NFT, and then user will be able to claim these vouchers inside the Grab wallet, and they could be able to go to restaurants and pay it with the NFT. So these NFT has a value inside them. So for example, let's say you go to a coffee shop and you try to buy like a $5 coffee shop, you will basically send a digital NFT from your Web3 crypto wallet into the merchants' wallets. So that's how we basically experiment the whole the new money with purpose thing in Singapore. Yep. So can you play this? So these are the digital vouchers that we basically release to the public. And then you can basically send it to the different wallets, to the merchants, and make purchase for the real items like coffee, food, etc. We test that out with the different vendors around the Singapore airport, and we have some good results. So that's where we basically improving on how we can integrate new technology into our everyday lives. That's also like one of the topics that I want to touch on, is tradition. So since I'm a designer from Myanmar, the way the struggle that I always have is that when we are designing for different people in Myanmar, right, the typeface that we have to select is very limited. To me, because I look at different countries and different design cultures, like in Latin, there's like a lot of English typefaces, right? And in Japan as well, different typefaces, Thailand, different typefaces. But in our country, we only have like a little bit of a selected, I would say like about 10 or 20 different typefaces only. So that's where I started working on this, the new typography typeface project. So as you can see on the screen, this is basically a Burmese typeface. If you are not familiar with the character, we used to this like very circle, rounded character in our language. So this is a Burmese character. Next slide, please. So as you can see, this is the whole, in Burmese language, we have 33 alphabets. So in English, 26, we have 33, a lot more to handle in terms of like a spacing, etc. The one on the right side is the numbers. So that's how we have the number from 0 to 9. And what's interesting is that because the numbers are like at different heights, and our Burmese language also is a little bit taller. So that's where the problem comes in when I was like designing posters and stuff for advertising. It's like, is there any good Burmese typeface that I can pair with a sans serif font, right? So this is where my project came to be. So this is where I'm like designing my my own Burmese typeface in order to work better with the sans serif typefaces. If you go to the next slide, please. So as you can see here, I kind of compare with the current popular Burmese typefaces. The first one is Art House, and then the third one is a Noto Sense, which is from Google, and then the other one is Myanmar MN, which is from Microsoft. You see, like there's like the way I want to design my typefaces. I want to use more geometric, more like a distinct and more geometric circular shapes compared to a little bit organic with the other typefaces. And next slide, please. And then as you can see here, I use like a consistent counters between different characters to make it really, to make the character really comes alive. And then on the right side, you see that I have paired with the sans serif Latin typefaces. For example, like Merchant Street, Coffee Shop, etc. on the C. So it's like it works really, harmonically with the English typefaces. So I would say, this project was really meaningful to me because I could be able to design something that is like our culture. And we could basically innovate our culture in a little bit, because that was also one of the reasons why I started this project. That I want other Burmese designers to come up with more and more typefaces, so that in the future designer will have a lot more varieties to choose from. Yeah, and then we have like a different weights and the whole characters and extra light. Yeah, next slide, please. The other one that I want to just really quickly touch on is how I inspire to be a designer from the different cultures, because as a young kid from Myanmar, I grew up playing a lot of games because my family used to own game centers, and then also I grew up looking up to designers who from Swiss, like Bauhaus, Joseph Müller Brockmann, all the very famous and popular, talented Swiss designer. So it's like I would say, the Swiss typography, the Swiss spacing, layout would be how I, grew up to become a designer, and what also inspired me to create these designs in my work. The next one that I would say is the famous Japanese designer. I'm really, really inspired by him. The work that he does is really meaningful, and then makes me think about how I design digital products as well. The last one I very quickly want to talk about is that as I grew up playing a lot of video games, Japanese games like Persona and Marathon, gaming interfaces, really inspired me to become who I'm as a designer today. So that will be me, and yeah, I'll get back to Ayana. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. Well, since you're working with a lot of countries, I mean, you need to design for all, like Japanese or Myanmar or maybe any other Asian countries and so on. But each country has each habits, payment habits and so on. What is the most difficult part to kind of localizing process? The hardest part is what is that?
I would say, the way we say, like in payment, right? Easy to pay, easy to make payments is always the word that we use. But then easy to make payment is different from country to countries. Right. So for example, in Indonesia, the user would love to, find out what product had discounts, what product has promos, right? They would love to, go through all the different products to figure out what is the most reasonable price products and stuff, right? They would like to analyze between different products. But then, for example, like I was working in TikTok shop, UK and London, UK and also US. In those countries, the payment experience is also different because they're not actively looking for promos and stuff, right? They just want to make the transaction as smooth as possible. So as you can see here, like in Southeast Asia, the payment experience that we offer is very different from the other countries as well. So I would say, in order to make a consistent payment experience, that brings out what is TikTok shop, would be quite challenging, especially when you have to work on different part of the world.
Wow. Yeah, before hearing your presentation, I feel like designers are leading our societies, by using your design skill. But I just noticed that designers are listening to users very carefully. And then, in other words, maybe people are not going to use it. But that balance is very difficult, right? Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to ask you more questions later in the panel discussion. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to invite Ayert to speak about her work.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Aya Murakami. I'm the founder and CEO of I Inc. I was born in Isesaki City, Gunma Prefecture in Japan. I hope you know Gunma. Next, please. So before I will tell about what I do, I would like to share my background. When I was 15 years old, I went to the United States by myself for 1 year. And I got discrimination because I'm Japanese. I was so shocked that Japan has low presence in the world. So I want to make Japan stronger. For that, I'm making this kimono dress. Okay, so the slide is not look good, but okay. My vision and my company's vision is also make Japan stronger. Next, please. And mission is revival of Isesaki Meisen kimono. Next, please. And what we do is first, culture brand AI. And second, made-to-order service. Third, culture produce for companies. Next, please. And I've been saying Isesaki Meisen a lot. And have you ever heard this word? No. This is one of kind kimono. It is pre-dyed silk fabric loved by women in Meiji era to Showa era in Japan. It's known for its vibrant colors and modern patterns. As you can see, if you hear kimono, maybe you imagine like the traditional Japanese design, but it has modern textile, and the material is silk 100%. And in the Meiji era, around like 18th century, it was casual wear in Japan. So like every woman, like no matter how rich you are, how poor you are, every woman were wearing this kimono, Isesaki Mason. Next, please. And this kimono was made in Isesaki City, where I was born. In 1930, this was the picture at that time. So like every woman loved wearing this kimono. Next, please. And what we do is we upcycle these Isesaki Mason kimono into clothes. We design like inheriting in new way. Actually, the Isesaki Mason kimono is now distinct in danger because no one is making this product right now. Next, please. And we also develop original textile, ai no nuno. We archive the pattern of the kimono design, and we make we are using like modern technologies like jacquard, weaving, or inkjet printing technique, and we made the fabrics inspired by this kimono. And we do the culture brand Ai, and this is our brand picture. Next, please. And we do pop-up store in like Gunma Prefecture, in Tokyo, in Kyoto. And last January, we did a pop-up in New York. And from tomorrow, actually, we're gonna have a pop-up in Shinjuku, Tokyo. Yes. And for companies, we do have a business called Culture Produce. For example, this is onsen uniform. We designed from the textile. It's using jacquard weaving. And how do I say that? The onsen culture in Japan is so famous. So like we go onsen often in normal days, and the staff are wearing this uniform. Next, please. And we do product development and producing. This is collaboration with Japanese tea brand. Right now, the Japanese tea situation is also in like declining because younger generation in Japan don't drink tea as much as they did in the past. So we designed the in one by one package, there is one bag, tea bag inside. And the package is using the kimono textile design. Next, please. So from this, I want to share why I do these businesses. When I was 13 years old, junior high school student, for the first time, I met Isesaki Mason through my classes in junior high, yes. Then I was so surprised that our hometown had such a great, beautiful kimono culture. So I joined the activities like wearing kimono in Ginza, Tokyo. Next, please. And when I was 15 years old, I went to United States as an exchange student, and wearing kimono, bringing the kimono as well. Through this experience, I got my identity as my background, Isesaki, Gunma, and Japan. And also, like, I couldn't speak English at all at the time, so kimono helped me a lot. And yes, before, please, すいません. And from this experience, kimono, it's like, how how do I say? I'm proud of Japan because at this moment I know that kimono was like common language in the world. Even I couldn't speak English at the time. I wear kimono and everyone see me as Japanese. So it has value. I recognize. Yes, thank you. The question of today, what was traditional me to you? My answer is what we create by our hands. As you can see in this picture, I collaborate with Japanese craftsmen in Japan, and the craftsman has always used their hands, and I also use my hands. And I upcycle kimono into clothing, but in the past, our ancestor made our culture, kimono culture, by themselves. And I think tradition can be changed. So in the past, kimono were worn by every woman, but now no one wear. So I should change something. So I upcycled. And maybe in the future, our children or grandchildren can make or maybe new textile from inspired kimono. I hope. This is the mean. And the last question, the experience of being inspired by foreign culture. Next, please. Actually, I went to Congo. Do you know DRC, Congo? In Africa. I went there twice in 2019. It was, I went there with our university's project, but as individual project, I brought my kimonos and did workshop with Congolese people. And Congolese people wearing kimono, it looks really good. As you can see, it's not African fabric. It's from Gunma, my hometown. So bright color, the design, textile design, I feel really possibility of this kimono. Next, please. And this picture, I did collaboration with local NGO in Congo to produce and sell clothing made with African fabrics. And the left picture, I lived in the NGO's shelf, built them, and making the clothing together. And the right picture in right is photo shooting in Japan. They have how do I say, contrast of these pictures. And I want you to compare with these pictures and the one before. Isn't it similar color? I found that the textile has connection without background culture. Yes. Yes, these are the pictures when I was in Congo. Yes, this Congo experiences in Congo was the biggest experience for myself. Congolese people had so much passion to change their culture, their their country better and better, and they inspired me as well. And I started my project making clothing with African fabrics and kimono as well. Yes, that's it, my presentation. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much. Well, when I heard the upcycling kimono, I didn't expect to hear the Congo, the name of the countries. So yeah, I think you're the first one, connecting a kimono and then Congo. And yeah, what inspired you to do all the work? I mean,
yes, the biggest inspiration from Congo was people. Congolese people is so passionate about. They want to change their lifestyle. In Congo, there's a lot of issues, but they have dream. They have passionate about they can change. They believe in themselves. So it was inspiring.
Oh, wow. but that motivation, I mean, for their motivations moved you, and then you connecting
exactly.
like these two countries' cultures. That's very amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, we're gonna invite Jenny. Talk about her product and then also work. So stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. I actually went to my first World Expo in 2010 when it was in Shanghai, and never would have thought that 15 years later I would get to speak at one. So thank you to Global Shapers, and I'm very happy to be here on this panel today. Next. So I'm joining you today from New York City, and living and working in such a diverse and ever-evolving city has been a natural match for my constant curiosity about other cultures. It pushes me to keep thinking about going beyond borders and disciplines and to approach design as a way of connecting with people and different traditions. My name is Jenny Lai, and I am an artist and designer working in the medium of clothing and textiles. I founded my own fashion brand called Knot in 2011, and over the years it has become known for its collaborations in the performing arts. So since I was a design student, I started thinking about, I started thinking about how design, what are all the stories and cultural meanings that design and clothing and textiles hold around the world. And this first led me to Rwanda, a landlocked country in East Africa, where I learned how to roll paper into beads and designed original jewelry for a women's cooperative. My journey then led me to Mexico City, where I worked with a fashion brand that was focused on reviving and adapting traditional Mexican handicrafts. So I visited family-run ikat dyeing workshops that were tucked into backyards and met indigenous women practicing hand embroidery in remote mountainous villages. A few years after that, I was really inspired by the rising fashion scene coming out of the post-apartheid generation in South Africa, and I initiated a project in Johannesburg. I was particularly drawn to the style worn by the Pantsula dancers, and Pantsula is an energetic street dance culture that originated from the Black townships of South Africa. So I collaborated with a local photographer who was really immersed in documenting the subcultures, and also with a performance artist and several other designers. And we created a body of work that was later exhibited in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and New York. Textiles has always been a passion of mine. So a few years back, I actually took the opportunity to live here in Japan for a few months. And I visited both traditional and contemporary craft workshops across Tokyo and Kyoto. And I learned about the most extraordinary techniques like katazome, stencil dyeing, hikizome, brush dyeing, and hikihaku, the weaving of metallic threads. And in Kyoto, I met this contemporary artisan, Takeshi Nakajima, who is pictured here in his studio. And he specializes in hikizome. And I just fell in love with the unique voice that he developed in this traditional technique. And actually, he has an installation of his textiles up right now here at the expo that you can check out. Next. And when I returned to New York, I created a collection that was highlighting the artistry of his textiles and also the unique considerations behind working with these narrow kimono fabrics. And with every customer, I would share with them the technique behind the dyeing of the fabric, and that exchange just brought such a deeper meaning and connection to the garment, and every piece was one of a kind. So you could really feel the multiple hands of the artisan and the designer that passed through it. When I started my fashion brand in 2011, I imagined it from the start as a platform through which I could experiment with how fashion would intersect with other disciplines. Whether it's music, dance, theater, or film, I've always gotten so much energy from working with artists from other fields, and I'm always curious about what stories clothing can tell, particularly in unexpected contexts. I've worked with renowned classical musicians designing what they wear for stage, everywhere from BBC proms in London to the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. And speaking of tradition, these musicians are breaking with the classical music tradition, not just in the music that they play or the composers that they commission, but also in reimagining how they can dress for stage in a way that's true to their identity. In theater, I've designed larger-than-life, absurdist, garment-inspired puppets that explore our inner emotional lives, and also experimented with how fabric could evoke memory and history through creating screens and props for shadow puppet theater. In film, I've collaborated on a 3D animated short film about a sketch that comes to life as a dancing garment. And I've also collaborated with a technology artist to create a fashion photography exhibition in the metaverse where avatars could walk around and experience 2D photos next to 3D sculptures, next to moving images, all in a gallery that was crafted through code. Next. I've always found myself drawn to learning from other cultures and other traditions, and I think it's because I'm a in-between person myself, growing up Taiwanese in America, living in a multicultural city, yet in a country that's very young, in a globalized world where everything feels within reach, yet authenticity can often feel farther from grasp. But tradition, and especially handicraft, to me, is our connection to other human beings and to nature. And it's how we've built our society. It holds our values and our histories and our stories. So as an artist and designer, I think that traditions will always remain an endless source of inspiration. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. You said like you're passionate about the textiles always. At the same time, you are collaborating with the new technologies as well. But from my perspective, it's kind of like difficult to working with like new technologies with textiles. Like what's kind of like difficulties you have gone through for that new collaboration in between?
Well, I think I'm not a very technological person myself, so I've definitely had the good fortune of working with artists that really specialize in that. But I think that the thread throughout it all is an experiment in storytelling, and so I'm always interested in working with artists of different fields and seeing how we can collaborate.
Great, thank you so much. So now we got all the works from today's distinguished panelists, and then now we're going to start our panel discussions. And I think in their first of all, they all kind of like touches like the effect from multicultural backgrounds, and then also work with affected by a lot of new cultures and so on. So I just want to ask first questions. You have a lot of cultural experiences, but to make some new product or service or clothes, what's going to be the main core things, multicultural, but still there is some core. So I want to ask you what's kind of the core values you have in your design work. That's going to be our first question. Who wants to take first? Tian, you want to go?
Okay, I'll take a stab at it first. So, I have designed a few products that work across, different countries, especially like Southeast Asia or even the Europes and US. I would say, the core service, the core purpose of the product can still remain, whether it is a digital product or physical product. But the other thing that I learned from, most of the experience that I have, work in Grab or TikTok, is that you cannot really ignore what people have in their own culture or the countries, right? So I would say, like from my experience perspective, is that you could try to come up with a product that work across all these different countries, but at the same time, you have to have some sort of like elements, from the local culture, like I would say localizations, right? Or hyper-local, like being a hyper-local product person. So, you can try to come up with the product that work across these different countries, but then I would say you need some sort of element that will make up a country, what is a country, or for the product for the people of that specific country.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah, the reason why I ask this question is, since like we have a lot of information every day, and then we see the Instagram and TikToks, and so everyone is affected kind of so many cultures. In the end, our culture is all the same. I see like that kind of future as well. So that's why I ask these questions. Like each designer may have some core. So if you want to add some stuff, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so like Jenny, I kind of grew up with a very mixed identity. My family are from the Philippines. I was born in the UK, grew up just outside of London in a very like white neighborhood. But now I studied at St. Martin's, which is very international, and I have quite an international client base and work base. But I think given that like the majority of my work is kind of focused on like a global perspective rather than something that's very hyper localized, but I do think there are core values within work that should be displayed wherever you are. Like I think sustainability should be at the forefront of what everyone does and should be thought about in terms of like it should be baked into the design process. And I think design also needs to be meaningful as well, meaningful beyond aesthetic, whether that encourages like social interaction or like a conversation or challenges a norm. I do think there does need to be that deeper connection to something. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Oh, here we go. I definitely agree with that. I think that the core is the emotional aspect of it. And, that's what is meaningful. That's how you know that it's connected to people. But otherwise, like Tihan was saying, I think that it's so common to, you come into another culture and you come in with a lot of expectations and assumptions, and you really learn how much you have to adapt, how much you have to learn from who you're working with and learn from the environment. So I think that that's definitely something that I've encountered all the time, just realizing that we have to kind of step back and really listen to who is around you and just be a receptacle.
Great. Aya, you want to go?
Yeah, adding to everyone, I think that each designer or like each person should have like vision, and knowing their vision and understand each other, we should collaborate with like a person who agree together so we can do like collaborating project, I think.
Great, thank you. So like designers, all designers have their own visions and then want to try to add something to the current, maybe like a traditions. So just like I wonder, like, but my understanding, like traditions always like are passed on to the next generation. We took over from, earlier generation and then we passed on to the next generations. Well, maybe we're gonna destroy the connections. It can happen. So just like I wonder, is it possible to having their innovation and also traditions at the same time? Can they like coexist? That's I would like to ask that questions.
Yeah, I'll start. I think that they have to coexist.
Yeah, I hope so.
Innovation is completely necessary. It's necessary for bringing tradition to new audiences and relevance to new contexts. I was thinking about this architect that I really admire. His name is Ronald Royal, and his interest is in mud architecture. And mud and earthenware construction has been around for over 9,000 years, and it has many, attributes like being sustainable and responsive to the climate. And I've been seeing him. He's been using Midjourney, which is a image generating AI, to create all these speculative images of architecture, futuristic architecture that's made from mud construction. And I just thought it was such an interesting way of maybe reawakening an interest in this traditional material. But beyond that, he has collaborated with a ceramic 3D printing robot company to 3D print with mud and create these prototype living structures. So I think that he is such a great example of how he's bridging tradition and innovation in this way.
Great. Yeah, that makes sense. You want to go? Yeah.
I agree, Jennifer, but how do I say? Sorry. It is really difficult, especially in local area in Japan. In my hometown, there is like traditional industry. As speaking of Isesaki Mason, it is in danger already. Nobody make them right now, so it's stopped anymore. So I think I can do upcycling, innovating production, but I'm not sure if I can do the same thing if the craftsmen in traditional industry are still here. I'm not sure because it's gonna be super difficult to understand. I don't know. Like I can try, but I'm not sure if the craftsmen in the local area can understand the innovation. So we have to try to communicate, and I would like to try. Yes, yeah, this is my experience.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Tihan, you want to add something?
Yeah. Let me tell a very short and interesting story that happened in Myanmar. So around 2000s, right? We don't really have smartphone. I mean, phones as very accessible. The reason why is because at the time, Myanmar citizens has to buy a SIM card for about 3,000 USD. So it's very, very expensive. So, at the time, not everyone has access to phones and stuff, right? And then, all of a sudden, in around 2009, 2010, the country started to open up. And then we have the prices of the SIM card started to decrease around $200 USD, from 3,000 to 200. So what happened then afterward is that the smartphone manufacturers started to come in, right? So what interesting thing about this is that we basically skip the web age, and then we go from not having access to internet directly to mobile. Everyone started to have mobile phones, but then we're not really familiar with websites, laptop, being very accessible to Myanmar citizens. But what interesting that I found out from it is that back in the day, people used to go to tea shops, to have a community talk. We're very have a sense of community and community focus. So our Myanmar citizens, a lot of young people or even elderlies, they go to tea shops to have a community discussions, etc. But that sort of tradition doesn't really die down even after this social and digital age. What kind of a community, all the community that happened, or community chat, or tea shop chats, lives on in Facebook groups these days. So this, even though now moving to mobile digital ages, and there was what was used to be a very tea shop chit chat becomes a community, different community. So I would say a tradition and innovation can still coexist in some sense. But then, of course, there will be some compromise, or in terms of like experience, it actually might not be exactly the same as how we used to do things anymore. But the core essence of the tradition, which is to have a chat with your friends, have a meaningful talk with your the group of people that you care about, still exists in this digital age.
It's funny you should talk about like this chatty tea thing. So I'm currently in a co-working space, and it's a co-working space that's all about wellness. And they've introduced this Chatty Wednesday idea where people get together and they just talk. It's a really lovely thing. But going back to what you mentioned earlier, about it's quite difficult for people to understand like innovation with tradition. I definitely understand that in terms of like the purists of traditions, but I think there's also like this opportunity with innovation and tradition where it does offer like new platforms to show your work, like through say like TikTok Shop or Etsy, and it really gives that opportunity to reach a greater audience. I do also think that there's opportunities with AI and traditions where you can maybe rediscover lost patterns, lost techniques by analyzing patterns and training data, and also potentially creating like custom models where, very similar to what Jenny said, where you can like train an archive of work of a creative so that the creative language does continue. But I think at the core of it, the innovation there really needs to be rooted in something that's familiar and something that is also authentic.
Do you want to add something?
Just one thing to add. One of the craft workshops that I got to visit in Kyoto was a traditional washi paper lantern making place, and I think it was in its 6th generation. And I had met this young man who was helping with their like business consulting and development, and I was just really interested in all of the new ideas that he was bringing to the company of how they could engage with different customers and different businesses. They were making products with Supreme. They were collaborating with artists for museum exhibitions. They were teaching lantern making workshops for corporate companies. And so I just thought that, that all those new ideas are necessary to find different ways to translate and share the culture and that traditional craft.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, listening to these conversations, it definitely changed my definition for all designers. I mean, they have a good sense to notice what's good, good for the future or good for the people or good for the sustainability and so on. They're kind of curating, the different fields and topics and the things and cultures. So yeah, that's very eye-opening things for me as well. Thank you so much. And then I think Tihan, you talked about the community. Even we are living in a digital world, we still love to be connected with people. So those kind of feelings attached to some communities or peoples still, very important for us as well. So something keep existing. Even we're changing from physical world to digital, and then maybe a digital to physical again. I'm not sure. So what you can see it not changing, even the world is changing. Is there anything that things keep going on for in the societies? Is there anything you can notice in your work?
I'll take this one first. Because the question you asked is that throughout all the changes in evolution, what stays the same, right? Because these days, the AI tech has been getting more and more advanced, right? With all the new products of AI evolutions coming out, and also with the open AI new models, everything is a bit overwhelming. And people start to ask questions: would AI take over jobs, or all these different questions, which is really reasonable. But I kind of like because you asked like what doesn't change, right? Because I feel like this sort of stuff, like the advancement, has already happened once. If I basically look back at it, right, before we have all these like a digital software, we do everything by hands, right? Like with the craft, right? You drew everything with your hands, you make everything with your hands. But then at the time, once the machines started to come out, the digital software started to come out, people were also worried that, oh, would my job be taken away, right? And I also feel like that's the same thing starting to happen again. So I kind of like remember this quote from someone who was saying that if you want to walk on future, you learn the history first. I feel like that's very, I can relate to that very much. And, I've seen throughout the changes happen, a few times in the past as well. And then now it's happening with AI is just that what doesn't change, it's craft and your taste. So if you look back, people who are taking advantage of that digital software and, machines, are the people who were like very good at craft before all these things exist, right? And I'm starting to see that people who will be taking advantage of these AI tools will probably be someone who was really good at craft, before the AI tools started to came out, right? So I would say, like, from my observations, my personal observation and perspective, I would say, having a craft and, having a taste, that really doesn't really change, even though, like a few times there's some sort of advancement happen in technology.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I just add to that? I think, so as you said, with the advancement of AI and technology, I still think there's, the human still plays a huge role in the creative process. And I think that is like really essential. I think if you look at creatives in the past, so take like James Cameron, for example, who's the filmmaker. He's really well known for using technology in his work. He is the filmmaker. He narrates the film. He creates the film. He creates the emotive feel of the film. And AI cannot replace that. It can't have that creative direction. But I do think we're at a precipice where creative designers are at that point where we're able to think about how these AI tools are going to be used in the future and potentially create these tools for creative use, similar to what like happened with like Photoshop and whatnot.
You want to say something? Something to add? Yeah, it's okay. Great. Yeah. Well, yeah, just like, that, as I said, the world is changing and, then also like our habit is changing as well. So the thing, but when we think about the future lifestyle, I mean, maybe we can set the 2050s. Looking back our 2000s, I mean, 25 years ago, our lifestyle is totally different from nowadays. And for example, in Japan's in 2000, we didn't have a smartphone, and then also it's abnormal to see father is really committed to raising their kids or something like that. So our habit is changing, and also our products surrounding us is also totally different. Well, in 25 years, we will see so many changes, maybe more changes than before. I mean, last 25 years. So, there are so many things we need to concern about it. But I want to see some fun things and also hope for our next 25 years. So, what's kind of what do you expect? I mean, in 25 years, the lifestyle, it's still a very broad question. And then also, I want you to answer these questions from your perspective, I mean, your expertise. In 25 years, lifestyle, it's a very big word, but what do you expect? What's kind of the hope you have for the next 25 years?
I'm going to go first. I believe that more people, what people do with story will be important. As I explained, where I came from, I like to listen to your story, and that story will make the product more valuable, I believe. And in these days, like technology, like AI or virtual fashion, more accessible to everyone, easier. I think like people, including story, where are they from, what they believe in, is more valuable, I think. And I really like to know every person, like you guys, where are you from? So I was really happy to hear what you said, this presentation. So I believe in people. Yeah, my answer.
Jenny?
Yeah, I thought maybe I could share a little bit of the changes that technology has been making in fashion and maybe where I hope that it can go. AI technology has been, transforming fashion really at every step of the way, from how designs, there's AI that can generate designs now for you just with visual prompts and with text prompts. And there's a lot of AI being used for smarter forecasting by companies of demand and production, trying to try to avoid overproduction and make that production process more efficient. And from the customer's point of view, there are a lot of advancements in like virtual shopping, virtual fitting rooms, where they can actually just take a few photos of their body and kind of have their measurements mapped onto an avatar and be able to try things on their actual body type. And I think that, there's a few areas that I would really love to see technology, help this industry become more efficient and more, less wasteful. And I think one of it is definitely, the ability to be able to try things on your own body. I think is actually, maybe it seems really simple, but I think that representation of being able to actually see your own body type wearing different kind of clothes, I think that, the fashion industry has always been very exclusive, and, especially marginalized communities don't get to see themselves wearing, having options. And thinking about, say, somebody with disabilities, somebody in a wheelchair, like if they could actually try on digital clothes and see how it fits or what doesn't work, and being able to maybe have a open source platform where they can share ideas for wearable solutions, and to be able to connect with engineers and designers and funders to produce these ideas. That's a direction that I would really love to see. And when it comes to the overproduction of, mass production fashion companies, I would love to see really every one of those companies being required to use AI to help them respond to demand and have that dictate how they produce, and also for transparency in the overproduction and the waste that they're producing, so that customers can be more educated on the products that they're buying and on the full life cycle of the garment.
Wow, yeah, that kind of like a collaborations makes us more options, because it used to be like we need to maybe choose something from the limited options. However, those kind of collaboration with technology gives us a lot of options, however, at the same time, I'm kind of wonders. You said customers can be more educated, and then also as you explained something, the Kyoto stories. If customers listen to those stories, they get more appreciate the products, and then also how to say, wearing it is going to be more meaningful for them. So yeah, that kind of how to say, we have a more option, and also we have a chance to express ourselves maybe in the future societies. Am I understanding correctly? If you want.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the other thing with digital garments is that maybe it can democratize that type of personal expression, and that it doesn't have to be tied to materiality. I mean, I think that's one area that I would be really interested in, is like, how can the fashion industry be less about producing physical items, and if there's a way that it can help, it can still fulfill a certain need to express ourselves, but not in a material way, I think that would be wonderful.
Great. Gabriel, you want anything?
Yeah, going back to your point on like waste within the fashion industry, I think there's a real opportunity where there could be this system that enables traceability, and also a lot of the clothes that we wear aren't properly marked up with the makeup of the material. So there could be opportunities to create these systems where you can scan a piece of clothing and it tells you the exact material of it, whether it's made up of cotton, polyester, etc. I do also think your point on digital fashion is really interesting. I think there's a company called DressX that creates these digital avatars where you are able to like dress in the online, and this creates new forms of expressions and identity that's not in the physical. But going back to Arya's point, I think there is this deep need for objects, I think, in the future. Objects that carry meaning, that carry stories, that are passed down. I think that's really important.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny and Gabriel. Yeah. The other thing that I want to add is that, because you mentioned that 2000 and then 2025 and 2050, right? From my perspective and my line of work is, we listen to users and we basically watch their behavior on how they, for example, like in Grab, take a ride, order food, and in TikTok, how they do shopping, e-commerce, etc. So basically, if you look back from like 25 years ago, for example, like if you want to buy something, okay, mom, I want to go to the mall, and then I'll take a look at this magazine and this product looks nice, right? And also from the word of mouth, people learn about different products, etc. In 2025, currently, the way we do things is quite different, right? You look at different apps. So you have a lot of apps on your phone. You start to browse around different apps to figure out, okay, which one I want, right? And then, okay, for example, let's say you want to order food. You have like different apps options, right? And in the future, the way I see is that sort of like an app model would probably change, because there's a constraint in that app model, right? The apps don't really talk to each other, and then like one app knows something, but then the other app doesn't know. So in my line of work, I would like, from my perspective, the way I foresee is that in the future, there's this something called AI agent, which is like, bridging the gap between different apps. You won't be browsing apps anymore. You just tell your AI agent that, hey, I want to buy a sweater. Can you figure out like what are the, different different shops and different, makers, and also like what are the different prices. And AI agent could be able to actually make the purchase, right? But of course, there's something to be, consider, which is privacy, sustainability, and also trust. When these, AI agents or apps have like so much access to your information, there's also something that you need to be, consider, like privacy, just like I said, right, like sustainability. So in next 25 years, I will start to see we go sort of like far away from this like different app models. So probably in the market as well, the company business model probably might have to change, because currently, the startup has like different apps, etc. And in the future, how do we make business out of these AI agents, etc., where we basically have like a personal assistant directly attached to you, and of course like your privacy matters. Yeah. That I would be, how I consider what's going to happen in like the next 25 years.
Great. In that kind of the era, is the work of designer is changing? Like, what do you see like in your work?
Definitely, I would say, because we used to look at like in my day-to-day work, we have like okay, you have one screen, you have another screen, you go from one screen to the next screen. What is the interaction, etc. But in the future, we will probably not have screens anymore. Right. Screens probably will be limiting. So what will be the input? What will be the output? Is it voice? Is it chat? Or is it what kind of user interface that will be, really nails the point of like communication from the AI agent to you? I would say I wouldn't really know because, currently we're using a lot of like a chat and voice to communicate with AI. But that probably might not be ideal in AI agent model. So we probably haven't figured that out yet. So that's why these days companies are, trying to figure out what would be the, I would say, generative user interface that you will be able to talk to, the AI agents, whether it's like an image, whether it's or a movie, whether it's a text. Yeah, I would say our line of work will be changing quite a bit.
Wow. Yes. Yeah, I think like now that, in this era, the work of designer is rapidly changing. Yeah, my friends, designers are always like talking about how they can work with the AI, and they're sometimes scared of the, technology and then progress. So yeah, but yeah, I feel, do you also feel the fear as well? I just want to ask you all, because you all, coming from different industries as a designer.
As I doing brand, if I put model, picture, and clothing, the AI can put together, and it's coming to one picture, which is good, but I think it's not like as the same as what we create. So I think like how do I say, creating real, like more high quality, high creativity will be our job, a designer's job, I think.
Wow.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think clothing, it's kind of, it's a physical thing. With all the online shopping, personally, I don't do any online shopping because I just feel like nothing substitutes the feeling of actually touching the garment and getting to try it on. It's like such a personal experience. And like, in 25 years, and 50 years, 100 years, I don't think we're going to be walking around naked. So, clothing will always be there. But I think with technology, I think surrounding the industry, how can that change? How can it change like our relationship with the clothing so that it can in a more sustainable way? Like that's for me like number one. And I think that the intimate relationship with the garment and the maker, that is always going to be, I think, the source of value and appreciation. And I hope that the work that I continue to do will, always be centered around how people can feel more value and care in the choices that they make, and that can also help be kind of a conduit to how they feel about their environment around them and their responsibility and influence on it.
Right, definitely. You said like, you're collaborating with a lot of artists as well as artists. And, we have a lot of questions for the sessions, but I want to ask, what insight have you gained from collaborating with designers from different fields? Because I think, like, it is quite difficult job for AI to replace. I mean, because artists is their own desires and inspirations and visions. So still, it's man-oriented work. So is there anything you've noticed, like, working with a lot of artists?
Yeah, I think my work recently with theater artists has been really eye-opening to me. It really showed me a different way of communicating. I think as a visual artist, that is the perspective that I'm mostly coming to things on like the visual perspective. But working with theater artists, I realized that time is their language, that they're thinking about stories in that way. How do we bring an audience with us through time? How do we tell a story through time? How much do you need to give or tell, and how little do you need to bring someone through that journey? And so that was really, really eye-opening for me to kind of think in that way. And after rehearsals, when I would be working with the actors, I would just be so exhausted, like exhausted in a way that I don't feel doing my other work. And I realized it was because it's just such a different energy that that was in the room. And there's just this feeling like you don't know what can come out of it. I could plan and, rationally think through all the possibilities, but what actually comes out of the experience of rehearsing and the play and all the imagination that comes out of that, you can't really plan for it. So I think that's the beauty of collaborating.
Wow, the process is already, it's kind of part of the art.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. And Gabrielle, like you're working with a lot of companies, and you said as a consultant, you're working on arts and designs, that kind of field. So
yeah, so I've been really lucky enough to collaborate with a lot of artists and designers, and from sound designers to product designers to acoustic engineers to structural engineers. And I think the best thing about co-collaborating with people is that I'm personally constantly learning. I'm always the dumbest person in the room. I work with a lot of experts and they have these really complex ideas. But I think what's great is that if you're able to take these complex ideas and really distill it into something that everybody can understand, that's really important for design thinking and design process, because then it can be applied to products. And I think creativity can be found from anywhere. In Jenny's presentation, she showed this animation of that, I think it was a garment, the orange thing. And I think it's really cool that if you were to do that in a sketch, I could probably see it as this really incredible, large-scale public art installation that's powered by kinetics. But then maybe a sound designer can see this more as a really staccato piece of music, which is perfect for X brand. So I think co-collaboration is great, and I think there's also this element of this unexpected collaborations as well. And when you dissolve boundaries, it creates a space for new dialogues. There's this great installation by Random International called The Rain Room, and it's basically a room where it just constantly rains. And when you walk in it, where you walk, it stops raining. So you're dry in this room that's full of rain. And there was a performance that took place in it, a dance performance. And it was this really lovely fusion of art, technology, performance, and dance, which potentially wouldn't have seen the light of day if it wasn't for unexpected collaborations.
Wow, yeah, that's definitely unexpected collaboration and happening everywhere. And then also, I feel the number of the collaboration is rapidly increasing as well. Since we have opportunity to be connected with various peoples online and offline. So I feel we have a more chance to share our own culture, traditions and habits with various people. So we see more different type of the products and then also service in our society in these days as well. So I feel my question is, when I hearing that new kind of collaboration, is there any a sense of the traditions? It's every time it's a new. So I feel how we can see that see the kind of a sense of the tradition and that kind of collaborations. Isn't it kind of difficult to keep those kind of the sense of traditions?
One project I did with architect and interior designer to make hotel. We designed like new design, really new, like modern design with like silk curtain with like newest architect. But we used traditional techniques using like I don't know in English, but like 木工技術とか組子細工it's like a wood technique in Japan. So I feel like tradition can be in the detail, and we can design in the perspective, the atmosphere. Yes.
Right. Well, Jenny, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it depends on what the goal of the collaboration is, and if it is to preserve and highlight and uplift a tradition, they can absolutely go hand in hand. With my collection that I did with the textiles, the Hikizomi textiles from Kyoto, I think that that was my way of kind of bridging tradition and contemporary design. And he uses this traditional yukata fabric. And I could have had him dye on any other kinds of fabric, but I really wanted to continue to use that fabric because he had told me that it was from a fabric mill that was really struggling to continue producing it, and he wanted to keep supporting them and for them to be able to keep making that fabric. So I wanted to also, for him to dye on that particular fabric, and for me to figure out how to use that within the collection. And kimono fabrics are only about 14 to 15 inches wide. It's very, very narrow, and designers are used to working with fabrics that are 60 inches wide, so 4 times as wide. And that means that you have to completely rethink how you cut and design and pattern your pieces so that you are using the fabric very economically as possible. And also looking at kimono constructions, I'm always so amazed by how they really try to avoid cutting fabric at all. And even if you do have some angles, you'll see fabric like folded up inside, right? And there's always the possibility of taking it out and changing it. And the idea is that it can continue to be passed down through generations. Mm-hmm. And I really love all of those, like that concept of keeping the fabric as whole as possible. So I tried to keep all of that in mind as well as I was designing the collection, and using the fabrics in contemporary silhouettes, like even like jumpsuits, right? And I want them to be worn in versatile settings, but still, keeping the original fabric and trying to keep the artwork of his textiles as whole as possible within it. That was my goal.
Great. Oh, Dehan, you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add something as well. Like, because you asked what is the tradition part of the collaboration process, right? Which reminds me of something about in our product design, we have this buttons and areas where you tap, right? So as you can see, in these days, that apps tend to remove the text and then just leave the icon. For example, it used to be a save icon is a floppy disk, right? Which is a common across all the languages, right? So it also reminds me of so even one back in the day where there was no languages at all between different different part of the world, we still can communicate between different people with just visuals, icons, hieroglyphs, right? So because you asked about the collaboration and tradition, that kind of instantly comes to my mind is that I would say, for example, in our line of work, right, you cannot do design a product alone. It's it involves hundreds of people, right? Designers, program managers, analysts, developers, front end, back end, and even users, right? Users are also part of the collaborations. But then once you start to work with different designers from different countries, and then sometimes you can have a common language, maybe English that you use in the brainstorming session. But at the end of the day, you go to a whiteboard and you start drawing pictures, you know. So I would say, like, in collaboration process, like, visual communication is stay sort of like a tradition, you know, in that whole process. Like, you draw something to, you know, let them show the other person how you think about it. It stay that, like, visual communication is stay key to, you know, communicating between different stakeholders. But then I would foresee, like, in the future where we don't need to speak the same language anymore. For example, let's say, you know, I'm collaborating with a designer from Japan, but the Japanese designer doesn't speak English, right? Maybe AI could bridge the gap between us so that, you know, we don't really have to speak the same language, and then we could be able to collaborate seamlessly, right? That would be like going back to the history where we don't need to speak the language, but then we use hieroglyph to, you know, like speak between different people. I would say that visual communication is, say, the tradition.
Well, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, without speaking to each other. Well, you know, we're trying to be connected to each other, but we can still collaborate. Well, yeah, it's very interesting. Like, you know, the collaboration process, it means, like, you know, understanding to each other, and then maybe like respect to each cultures. When I was listening to, like, Jenny's stories, like, you know, I still feel like, you know, that your collaboration with Kyoto is like based on your human-to-human relationship. Since you admire the skills and then also the cultures and tradition, that collaboration happens. So I feel like always that kind of, like, you know, new collaboration is based on some human-to-human connection and then traditions.
Yeah, and I think that that's the beautiful gift that I feel art and design has in my life, that no matter where I travel, I can find somebody I want to meet through their work, and we can have that connection kind of through our artworks, almost speaking to each other. And that's the spark that, you know, lets the friendship grow. And through that, I get to learn about their culture. And it's a way that feels, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to describe it exactly, but I feel like that has always been my entry point into learning from different cultures.
Yeah, Gabriel.
I definitely agree there. I think there's no substitute for humans inspiring other humans. I think like that spark, that exchange, I think it's probably like the best creativity hack you can get. Yeah.
Well, yeah, since, like, you know, it's a kind of like human can only like inspired by human, not only, maybe. Well,
I think humans, there's no other better way to inspire another person is through like personal connections. But I do think that there are, of course, other ways to inspire through like objects and whatnot. And there's this Dieter Rams, for example, the incredible industrial designer. He, I think, has inspired a ton of people in terms of like how his work is super sustainable. His products that he's designed for Vitsu, they're all like made from recycled materials, and they have that cradle-to-cradle system. But I do think that that humans are the best like inspiration out there. Yeah.
right. Yeah, because like each human has each stories. Those kind of the power of the stories are always like inspiring us, and then also, you know, this is made by this one. I mean, this person's that kind of, you know, things is very, impressing and amuse us. So yeah, sorry, Tihan, you wanna?
Just wanted to add that like you actually buy not the product, but then you buy the story from the maker or, you know, the designers behind the product itself.
Right, yeah, great. So yeah, because our end time is quite close. So I would like to ask you something like, you know, your message in your designs. So today's, you know, the expo is all their exhibition is kind of like expressing their own culture, but at the same time, it's a hope for the future as well. So I would like to ask you that questions on the slides, what message do you want to convey to the future through your design? That's going to be my question to you all. Is there any strong message, like keynotes, for your design work, especially for the future?
I think it's very simple for me. I think if somebody finds my designs in 50 years, I hope that they will still feel a sense of playfulness and curiosity when they interact with the garments, that maybe they will be challenged to question their assumptions and their expectations, and that it can bring some kind of daily joy and a desire to experiment with their lives.
Great, beautiful. Maybe IR can go next.
Yes, my message. I want to tell younger generation to get to know the culture where you are from, because how do I say? Maybe you cannot see culture. It's behind. So I want to make them a chance to get to know a small culture. It's small, or because there is a lot of culture or koge, like crafts in Japan or in the world. This is a message from me.
Great, Tihan.
Yes, for me, I would like to, convey like two things. First one is the resilient adaptability. For the younger generation is sometimes the solution might not come in the early stages, but as you start working on it, as you go through the process, in the creative process, etc., it's going to come at some point. So being resilient and being adaptable to the culture and the story of the people that you're working for, that will be very important. The second thing I would say is like, as an experienced designer, you get to design how people use a product or do certain actions or certain things in life. It's also important for our experienced designers to not to be very intrusive, when it comes to like a user experience, right? We would have to create sustainable like experiences. What I mean by that is that, for example, we want users to look at our screens or our products all the time, but the best product is to be very seamless and non-intrusive, I would say, so that user could be able to use your product and then it would be like in the background, invisible, and it gets the job done. I think that would be the goal of my user experience designer. So I would say that would be the second message for me.
Great. Gabriel?
I love that, like ambient computing. So I think for me, it's not to lose touch with like physical human connection, and also to make sure that there's an identity still to your work. And similar to Jenny, like I hope that my work never loses that sense of play. I think play is super important. It's how we learn as children. It's how we navigate. And I think that's really like the gateway to creativity. It really opens up like vulnerability and like curiosity. So yeah, that's me.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, we see like the future of design and also the future of our lifestyles. And then I feel like, each designer has their own experiences, and then also the sense of the collaboration and also the respect for the, past. Those kind of things are mixed, and then also, and also from each product and service, and that's your design, kind of like shaping our new lifestyle. It makes me very excited about the upcoming era, and also, yeah, it's kind of like eye-opening for me to to select some product or service. I always I haven't thought about designers. I just see the product and it looks good. Okay, so I want to buy it. But there are always someone who are working with a lot of collaboration and also the visions for the futures. I want to change my habits, to select something always. And that kind of the choice is making our own next future generation and future societies. Thank you so much for joining today. And if it's possible, I would like to take some questions if the audience has. And yeah, anyone wants to ask some questions about to each designers and the panelists? Okay. No one is here? Okay. Well, since then, we have still a little bit time. I just ask you the message for the future, but I want to make kind of like fun times. So, what is your personal dream? As a designers, that's going to be the last question for our sessions. I think since the designer is affecting a lot our choice, our future. But I want to know more about your personal aspects. So the last question is going to be, what is your personal dream? It can be, very personal. You don't need to be like a designer dreams, but who wants to go first? What's kind of the dreams you have as a person?
So I think for me, I would love to design an art installation that uses traditional material from the Philippines. So I'd love to connect back to my heritage and understand materials that they use, such as pineapple fiber and mother of pearl. So that's one dream that I would love to do. But I think for me to do that authentically, I would need to reach out to those artisans and to understand the material and to understand the limits of the material, so that I can take those findings and design them in a way that is meaningful for the installation. I don't know what this installation would be, but I'd love to do that.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so next, who's want to go? Okay, Tihan.
My dream as a designer, because I born and raised in Myanmar, and then trying to have a career outside of Myanmar in design. I do want my country to have more design execution or designers coming out of Myanmar in different industry like fashions, user experience, creative, whatever it is. That's also one of the reasons I do share. I do get podcasts, quite a few times in the past to basically share my journey and also how you could be able to make it outside of Myanmar as a designer. So my dream would be to see many and many more young generations of designers coming out from Myanmar. Even though with all the stuff's happening in my country, I would still love to see a few designers or many more designers coming out of Myanmar, and I would be happy to support that, and also in my in whichever way that I can support or share my experiences and stuff.
Lovely, thank you so much for sharing. Aya?
My personal dream is I want you guys to come to Gunma Prefecture. So for that, I want to make places in my hometown so that people from foreign countries can visit, stay, and see our traditional cultures, factories, visit my partner craftsmen, designers. Yes, and I want to have a Shiba dog in the future. Okay. My dream. Thank you.
Well, yeah, your product is definitely become the gate for everyone to come to Gunma prefectures. So we love to visit. So lastly but not least, Jenny.
I think that my dream as a designer is always to keep learning and to keep that excitement alive. I think clothing is a piece of architecture. It's the most intimate shell body house that we live in. But I've always wanted to also work on larger scales, and I love architecture as a discipline as well. So I always think that I want to maybe be able to create some collaborations with architecture or something in a very large installation size where people could really experience clothing in a totally different context and scale.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope your dreams, all your dreams come true. And then also, shaping the future of lifestyle, they are not only people like who are shaping the lifestyles. We are also making a choice, and decision. Each decision is actually like shaping our next lifestyles. So that collaboration, I mean, as you said, like user is also the member for our collaborations. We are going to make a new lifestyle altogether. So I hope to see like more and more collaborations between us and happening. So thank you so much for joining today. This is the end of this session. Thank you.